The Osiris Shaft.
The Osiris Shaft, that place. What do you think about that place?
Oh my goodness. Amazing, freaky, creepy, claustrophobic, terrifying, weird.
The worst vibe I've ever gotten in my entire life. I didn't expect it to feel that. I was so excited to go down there, but I'm like, it felt next level creepy.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I think that thing had probably multiple purposes. I have no doubt that it was used as a tomb, but like, I think maybe some bad things happened in there.
So just for anyone who's watching, who's like, what is it? What are they talking about? Because I didn't know anything about it before we went to Egypt. But the Osiris Shaft is literally a huge, maybe 100 foot down into the earth?
90, 93, 96 feet down, maybe 97 to be precise, something like that. It's like, it's like 29 meters, I believe, something like that.
It just drops straight down through the bedrock.
One shaft, and then it goes over into a room, which is not that big, and then it goes down to another. So it's 3 tiers down, and the shafts are staggered. And by the time you're down there, it's total darkness.
Yep.
It's carved out of solid limestone bedrock, and it's located right between the Sphinx and the second pyramid up along the causeway.
Just to interject there, because I didn't realize until Yusef told us that the second, what we call the second pyramid, which is kind of like, because we call the Great Pyramid like the main one, the one that's in all the movies and gets all the tourists, but the one in the middle, the second pyramid, used to be called the Great Pyramid, like back in the day. I don't know why the new one's called the Great One, because apparently, why didn't we stick with the old?
Only because it's a little bigger. And it's not a whole lot bigger either. It's pretty close, actually. Which is interesting.
They're kind of twins. But what's interesting is the middle one, the old Great Pyramid, that's the one that's linked to the Sphinx. And it's also the one that's apparently linked to the Osiris Shaft.
Yep.
So I feel like this.
And the one that built on that bedrock. Our trip with Ben of Uncharted X, he presented me, we were chatting about it while walking around the plateau. And he presented a very convincing argument that was the first one. And I'm like, because before I always thought, I was like, the Great Pyramid was the first one. I'm like, no, like you just said, that's what they referred to as the Great Pyramid. And I'm with it. I'm like, there's so many things about it. The fact that the entire internal structure is entirely bedrock is kind of mind blowing. And the next level difficulty of creating it over the bedrock. And it's like, and being directly at the causeway to the Sphinx, like from the Sphinx.
Yeah. It had some sort of connection. And then when I realized that the Osiris Shaft was also connected, the shaft is like on the causeway that's going down between the pyramid and the thing. And if you didn't know where the entrance was, like you wouldn't see it walking down. You just have to go around and like, oh, there's a tiny little
underneath
door.
It.
Yeah. And then you have to go down and drop down. And they say, according to the officials, they say that it's just an isolated shaft with 3 levels and it doesn't go anywhere. It must, because when we were down there and I asked one of the official guys, I was like, so how did they get all the granite boxes down here? And he was like, oh, well, they filled it with sand and then they lowered the sand out and then the boxes went down. And then I went, where did the sand go? And he looked at me and went, and walked off. And I was like, I think that there definitely is a tunnel system. It would just seem really weird to dig a huge hole in the ground going straight down. They didn't go anywhere.
So a few things about this. So I first learned of the Osiris Shaft just a couple years ago when I believe it was Brian Forster who had went down in there, and I did some research on it. And Zahi Was, there was a Fox documentary done in, I believe it was either 1996 or 1999. I keep messing up that date, but either way. And he did a tour of it, and this was on the news. I remember I recalled, I'm like, oh yeah, I did see this, but I was literally in middle school at the time. And so in it, he does a tour of the place and brings a reporter down in there, and they're like, we think we found the tomb of Osiris. That's why it's called the Osiris Shaft. And they said, we don't know yet. We haven't opened up the box, but they show you and all this. It was amazing. And in that documentary, he shows you all on the 3rd bottommost tier level, there was a tunnel, and he stands right in front of it. And he says, this goes tunnel, we don't know where it goes yet, which I'm instantly like, well, that's a lie. Like you just didn't bother going down there yet? Oh, it's open. Like, oh, one day we'll go down this tunnel and see where that takes us. Like, I didn't believe it for a second, but it has since been sealed off. They bricked it up or whatever. I didn't get a view of it with my own eyes when we were there because it was too flooded and I couldn't like see down that direction, which is a great regret of mine. Maybe next time I'll just get my feet wet. I was kind of grossed out. So the thing is that there's long been legends that say that there was tunnels under the Sphinx that connect to the pyramid. That's what people have said for going back a long time.
So here it is. So when you go down like the rickety little ladder, metal ladder that was like eroding away, and I thought was going to snap instantly.
That was dangerous.
If you drop, like you just drop 100 foot, you just boom down. Like it was yeah, I was sweating. So you go down, you crawl along to the next drop, and then you go down another ladder here, and then you come to like the second level, which is this weird room with like kind of, what is it, like a kind of cave, These
nooks,
nooks in the wall.
There was a couple of them that had the stone boxes within them.
Yeah,
the rest were empty, and a few had these cutouts on the actual bedrock. And keep in mind, everyone that's watching this is all in limestone. This isn't sand. All of this is literally just a big stone capsule. And this second area was the creepiest part of the whole place. I didn't get to walk around that very bottom one, but I'm like, yeah, okay, good. Show it like that. Yeah.
So you come down shaft B and you walk into this little room, and there's like, it's tiny. And then shaft C is how you go down to the next level. But then literally in here, in all these little rooms here, and then there's 2 boxes left. So where are the other, are the other ones?
Great question. And when, just real quick, when you look at chamber C and E, those little cutouts, people need to realize that they're literally, that's just cut out on the floor of the bedrock. It is extremely shallow, not even a foot deep. I want to say 8 to 10 inches deep maximum. I'm like, that's not what you would bury someone in. It'd be half their body would be above or would be flush with the ground. And I'm like, but it was so small. I'm like,
what is it?
It was weird. And then in chamber F, that's where we stepped on the human bones.
Yeah, so that was horrible. So not only is it crazy dark down there, like none of the lights worked or anything. There was like one lamp that went down. Yeah, there was just bones. And
I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was pottery shards.
Yeah, and you were standing.
And then it wasn't until after I got out of there, I was informed that, oh yeah, be careful. There's human bones down there. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, no wonder I felt so disturbed in there. There was a vibe in there that was the creepiest thing ever. And I'm like, I don't know how to put it. I was eager to get out of there. After the half hour I spent down there, I was like, this place is just, I don't know. It had a terrible feeling. Like, I know some people that doesn't mean anything to someone, but there's a vibe of place. Feng shui is a thing. There's energy.
And you're like,
right? Some places feel good. Some places don't. And I'm like, I was excited to go down in there. I'd want to be there. That was one of my top things in my list to go see in the country of Egypt. And then when I was down there, I'm like, something felt terribly off. I feel like maybe some really bad things happened in there.
It was
people buried alive, people tortured. Maybe it was a prison cell. Because you can just drop someone down in there and just leave them in there. There's no way out if you don't lower a ladder down. They're just in there forever.
How do you get in that? So obviously we had a modern metal ladder to get out now, but like this thing is unclimbable. It's unscalable. You get put down this. I don't feel like it was designed to be going in and out of, like,
not at all. I mean, yeah, you could use ropes or a rope ladder or whatever to lower people down. I'm assuming that's they did or something, but like this place didn't. I didn't get the impression that people were supposed to be coming in and out here at all. It's kind of like, I don't know what its original purpose was, because I don't feel like I know everything about it, because even that tunnel that's supposed to connect on that third tier down hasn't been explored, at least with information that's available to the public. So
here, I don't know what language this is, but this is like the pyramid. I think somebody's like proposing that that's where it would go, like, because like it's 30 meters below, so it would be at the level, like that way. Very weird. Very weird.
To me, all right, so what I think, and I don't have the evidence to show people, but I do think that there's an underground network of tunnels around the plateau. There's just 100%. Too many separate legends and tales of it, and other I mean, people even Yusuf's father himself as a kid went and according to him, took a tunnel that connected to Giza to the Saqqara pyramid 8 miles away, as just a straight line. Underneath there's the labyrinth, which they know now to exist, and that's Zahiwas from that documentary I mentioned.
Yeah,
and so now that is all under a couple feet of water.
Look at how Saqqara-y these boxes are. Like, they're so precision cut. They are absolutely huge. And the shaft, the tunnel that we crawled down to get even down there, I think the measurement just fits, as in like there is no room for pivoting, but they could just about fit down. So if that's how they brought them, I don't even know how they got these things down there. And then this is like a bit of apologies for the HD. This is such a pixely picture, but this apparently was like a drawing of what it would have been, because originally there was 4 obelisks down there.
Pillars.
Yeah. And they've removed them, and I don't know where they've put them. But I think that the running theme of like water, granite boxes, obelisks, I think it has something to do with some sort of energy or function. We always go for like religious, like, oh, it was the religious spiritual thing. I'm like, what if it wasn't always about the spiritual? Like, what if there was a reason why they put these, if it was conducting something or flowing something, with maybe if this was like a breaker between some pyramid and that pyramid, or I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
totally, because I'm with you. I think it could either be, it could be a million things. It could be something we can't think of, but the things that come to my mind that I think what if is one, what if it was something for generating some sort of energy? Like, so it was a way of harnessing power from the earth through, you know, or perhaps, you know, it's like when we were talking about like the ancients allegedly living to be hundreds and thousands of years old. Like, what if those things weren't actually meant to be sarcophagi for a dead body, but rather some sort of DNA healing? You go lay in there and your body gets fixed through all the energy it's finding through it. I mean, that sounds radical, but I one reason why I think it's possible is because I believe that like the cure for cancer or something is going to be through frequency. I think that frequency is the answer to all things, because the whole universe is a frequency. I mean, that might sound crazy, but look at your Wi-Fi, look at 5G, look at the television channel. Just by pressing one button, slight little frequency from the television or the radio changes everything you see, is totally different.
Yep.
And I think that that's what that is. Even light itself is a frequency, which is why it's measured in hertz. That is the secret of the universe. Just like Tesla said, energy, frequency, and vibration. Yeah. So I would say that through vibration, a frequency is how you would cure something like a cancer. So when I look at if it's possible, or if it's true, I should say, that the ancients once lived to be a long, long, long time, what if the Great Pyramid was a healing thing? And I know some people will hate me for even suggesting stuff, but I'm just throwing around fun ideas.
I mean,
how possible? I'm not like sold on it, but like maybe.
Explain radiation therapy to someone who doesn't know anything about modern medicine, and it's just as weird. You're like, what? So you heal a cell by killing a cell with a radiation? Yes, you put someone in a machine and you radiate the cells with something. But I was like, it's essentially it's like same thing, different apparatus in a sense. 100%.
Because the radiation is giving off a frequency as well. It's radiating. That is a frequency. That's a fact. Like, people go research, because I remember looking into this a long time ago for a video I made a few years ago. There was unrelated topic, it had nothing to do with healing people, but it had to do with like radiation and how it's like literally giving off a frequency.
I felt like the Giza Plateau, when I actually went there, I was like, whoa, the huge megalithic blocks that are eroded like nothing else we saw in Egypt. And they're telling us
at the top of the causeway.
Yeah, they're telling us that those blocks are the same age as all the other temples in the same area. And I'm like, well, why are these eroded like they've been there for thousands and thousands of years? Well, like hundreds of thousands of years. And also all of the dug tunnels that this culture seemed to be able to dig through bedrock, like in a way that was like machine. It was crazy. So I feel like the Osiris Shaft and all the under tunnel stuff, that stuff is old. And that's stuff that the Egyptians found and was like, cool. I don't feel like they did it. And it just felt like, super, super old, because the only way that they can date the Osiris Shaft is they found pottery down the bottom, red polished pottery that dates from the 6th dynasty. So super early. So even if it was Egyptian, that's crazy early. That's before they had any kind of iron or anything. And they built a 3-level shaft with obelisks and granite precision boxes and all this stuff. And the later Egyptians could never ever make that kind of box or obelisk. So how
not with the known tooling that they had. So either it's a lot older and was done by someone else with technology, and by technology it could be metals, stuff that's rusted away, or we just don't fully understand. Like, what we think about the Egyptians from a couple thousand years ago might just not be accurate. Or you know what I'm saying? It's one or the other. Like, because these theories that they say how they did it doesn't make sense. And you and I know, because we were there and we touched this limestone with our own hands. This stuff, like, because a lot of people describe like, well, limestone is a soft stone, and they mean that in comparison to other stones like granite. Like, but they don't. There's different limestones throughout the world, and that stuff that makes up the pyramid, this shit was next level hard. It felt almost as hard as granite. And apparently, according to Yusuf, it's not that far off. Again, I've seen videos of these people use comparable copper chisels, which copper is made up of bronze and tin, and use them on doing testing on limestone that's comparable to that of Giza. And they only made it several hits per, and I'm not exaggerating, several. This is Mark Lehner, by the way. This is a documentary, Mark Lehner. And before they had to re-melt one down. It was so impractical, and they made almost no difference at all. And I'm like, guys, this is just not how they did it. Like, that's it. It's not how they did it.
And for anybody who's like, oh, they it was all geopolymer, then I'm like, well, but that still doesn't explain how they did all of the tunneling. Like, how the hell did you tunnel through all this bedrock, which is the same rock that you're talking about cutting? Yeah, it's just like they knew how to cut stone. Let's all agree on that at all. And so the fact that they date this to the 6th dynasty because of a piece of pottery, I'm like, okay, no, but all that's actually saying is that somebody was there at that date and they left their pot.
It was at least that old.
Yeah,
at least
they left their lunch there. That was the last person who left their pot. I mean, they've left their pot down the shaft, and they're like, damn it, I'm not going back down there. It's scary. But that says nothing about when they actually chiseled or when they put the thing. Yeah, I couldn't believe that the guy who was giving us the tour literally didn't have an answer, because he was told to say, if anyone asks how they got the boxes down, and they said, oh, it was sand. And then when they're like, well, where did the sand go? And he wasn't trained for that question, so he just walked off.
So when in that documentary I mentioned with Zahi Hawass giving the tour, so that's exactly what he had said. He said that they would have literally filled it with sand and then pulled the sand out. But he said what he said was that, because this answers your question that the other guy either couldn't answer or didn't want to. What Zahi Hawass himself said is that they would have had an adjacent tunnel where they would essentially have sand in one and move it out into the other, so it's supposed to go up like this.
Yeah.
But where's the tunnel? There is no tunnel. We saw with our own eyes, and I walked around this thing I wandered for 30 minutes straight, and this area is not that big, and I just did lap after lap, and there is no tunnel, and there's no because you'd see it, you'd know it. You're surrounded by enclosed limestone bedrock. And
are you talking about level 2? There's no tunnel going in on level 2, but there is a tunnel. But they're saying there officially isn't, but there is a tunnel down by where the water is.
Well, I'm talking that would be a horizontal tunnel.
Yeah, not a vertical.
What Zahi is saying is a vertical tunnel shaft. I should have said this. A second shaft. That's what I meant to say.
Second shaft. Okay.
That would have been adjacent to the known shafts that are already there. But I'm like,
no, there isn't.
Right. Because you're in enclosed bedrock. And let me just say to anyone watching this, so I don't have any photos of the Osiris Shaft. All cameras were completely forbidden. Literally, before we walk in, no cameras. So you know what I did. And to anyone that's not aware, I'm going to share it right now. So I had a shirt with a pocket. And what I did was I grabbed my cell phone and I put it in like this, camera facing out. And I recorded the entire thing from start to finish. It's 27 minutes and 52 seconds. And it actually got some decent video. Some areas are a bit dark and you can't really see, and it's shot in vertical. It's like nothing about this is perfect, but I got the shot. And what people can see, because there is some good shots in it, and people will be able to see that I take this thing around and just do circles countless times for 30 minutes. Like I wandered around like just a lost person. And so people will be able to see exactly what we're referring to when he says like there is no second shaft. Did they install bedrock to hide this thing? Like it's not there.
No, it was a closed room. And so we weren't allowed. They were like, no, absolutely, cameras off, no photos. So I didn't have a pocket, so I couldn't do your trick, but you did it. But also it was so obvious.
Got away with it.
It was so obvious
that you bad.
You had this thing and there was like a light, and I remember you were standing there like this, going, what's over there? And then so half of that video is just going to be me being like, Jimmy, they know. Oh,
you're on there. It's so funny. I got to see this because you you didn't yell, but you pretty much you were looking out for me. Like
I think I yelled at you a lot.
You're like, when you said something, I'll have to rewatch it because Jimmy, I'm going to put it.
I think I can make a little compilation of me telling you off in Egypt, because there's other places as well, like in Saqqara.
Really?
And and I'm like, I might insert it here.
Is this on your video?
Yeah, it's me being like, Jimmy, they're coming.
What was I doing? Remind me. I get yelled at all the time.
You jumped inside the big granite box in the Saqqara.
Oh,
You
Get
jumped
out of there,
down
they're
and then
coming, get
like
out of there.
jumped in, and then I've got me going, and you're like, don't you want this for Instagram? And I'm like, Jimmy, they know.
You need the shot.
Okay.
You wanna post on Instagram or not?
The guy's saying to get out.
Is he?
Try not
Yeah,
to
they're
do
coming.
while I'm
Jimmy, they're
approaching.
coming. Like I was just
Yeah.
like a little geek. Like, you're gonna tell us off, Jimmy?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to upload that Osiris Shaft video. But
Do
I've
it.
got to tell you, like that place
Do it.
was the creepiest place I've ever been in my life. And I know some people will brush it off, like, well, yeah, it's a dark cave,
No.
it's a
There were
tomb. You're
literal
just in your own
human
head. I'm like,
remains.
I mean, but then again, we're just seeing it as it is now. I mean, who knows what the
it
hell
was.
has happened down in there? Because even those bones are probably, I mean, who knows how old those are? Those could be 200-year-old bones or something, or they could be 2,000 years. I mean, I have no idea the story behind those bones.
But the mystery about this place is so old. The first time it's ever written about is in 1933. That's the first time that anybody like mentions it in history. And then Zahi Hawass comes in the 1999 and like excavates it and does stuff. Imagine where else on the whole Giza Plateau. What if there are 20 of these things like around?
So this is something else that ties into to go with that point. Do you remember how many those shafts, those random shafts that we saw throughout? Do you remember on the plateau? They just go straight down. They're carved. Yeah. I don't know how many there are, but probably like closer to a dozen that I saw, or at least maybe half a dozen. Those shafts that are literally, I mean, at least some of them must have been 70 feet deep, which is deep when you look at it, and they're like 10 feet wide. But some of them have horizontal tunnels going directly into them. I have pictures and video of this. I can't wait to share it, but I'm like, it goes into that same point.
Yeah.
That some of those look like they lead straight into a tunnel sideways, already 20, 30 feet underground. And I'm like, so what's down there?
Same with the very back of the second pyramid, you know, the wall of bedrock that they'd like cut out. And then every so often there was like doors that were blocked now. They've blocked them. Yeah, because Tim tried to go down and got like pulled back out by a guard.
Yeah.
And he was like, I tried my luck.
Awesome.
But these shafts like drop down there as well. And I'm like, there are these tourists coming here in their droves, and then they're so busy looking up at the pyramid going, oh, that's a nice picture, that they're not like investigating all around and all the holes and the doors and the grates. And I honestly think if you sonar scanned the whole thing, it would look like a computer memory board with the amount of like tunnels.
People debate the age and the technology, all this stuff. Like, not everyone has all the info. Even like there's these professors out there and there are all these skeptics. I'm like, all right, that's cool. We can all disagree. If anything, it should be fun. But like, if there's one thing we all have in common is that ain't none of us have all that info. Ain't none of us been in those locked tunnels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to go see. Maybe it goes nowhere. It's just a tomb. I don't care. Cool. But I just want to see it. And I'm like, I think people need to unite and stop fussing about where's, you know, what the purpose of the pyramid. I mean, that's a fun topic and it should be had. But like, instead of arguing viciously, it's like, can we all just unite and be like, hey, unlock this damn door and let me bring my camera in there and make a YouTube video on it. That going into that second tier, that shaft must have been what, 50 feet? It feels further because it's hard to tell when you're holding onto a ladder for dear life.
You're just like looking down.
It feels far. It's like, oh, it's 100 feet, but like no, all three levels were 100. But the second one was the longest, and I want to say it was better. It was between 50 and 60 feet was my estimate, which is far. And if you fell down that thing,
you're dead. It's like the same with the pyramid. I was like, these places aren't designed for humans to be going in and out. Whatever this purpose is, it's designed for something other than humans walking in and out every day, because it's such a horrible thing to get through. And you're like, say this place was the burial site of Osiris. You can't have a funeral procession. You can't lay the body down. Literally, Osiris's body would be like bang, 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 bang. And then you take it down to dragging it. Like, that's not how you bury a god, dragging it through these like rock tunnels and like slapping it on. It was just like,
that's a good point.
I was like,
and on top of it, it's kind of a little bit too rickety. As amazing as it was, the feat of digging through all that limestone, that bedrock, but even then, it wasn't perfected to where I was at. And put it this way, I was really curious to see what the precision would look like with my own eyes.
Do you remember
there's so many reasons to look at that.
The tombs in Valley of the Kings, like you say, everything's precise, everything's beautiful, everything's ornate. There would be more there. Like it was the reason why it was creepy was because it was so rough and ready. It did feel like an older, archaic, like an old civilization. Not because Egyptians are known for their beautiful, ornate, like colorful. The Egyptians weren't creepy. They were
Yeah, they were
awe-inspiring.
exotic. They were,
Yeah, you're completely right. It was really like you could see like where they were scooping it out, where they just kind of bashed it and they're like, that'll do. But then to juxtapose that, beautiful, precise granite boxes. So maybe it didn't matter. The point was, it didn't matter what the bedrock looked like because nobody was going to be going in and out. It wasn't a place that was of any substance, or it wasn't for ornate or visual reasons. It was a practical thing. Let's get it down there. Let's get it in there. Boom.
Right there with you, especially with that box in the third tier. Well, they're all beautiful boxes. They were like precise.
Yeah.
So here's something else to think about that to go along the lines of it potentially having a purpose, that it didn't, the boxes matter, but the walls around it didn't. So when we're at the Serapeum with those 100-ton stone boxes, the exterior on many of them were not perfect. They had blemishes and divots, but what was perfect was the interior of all of them, which is quite interesting because shouldn't it be the other way around? If it was meant to be a coffin, essentially, for a dead bull, it would be far more important to have the exterior be perfect, which is what's going to be seen. Whereas the inside, okay, it doesn't have to be, just make it nice, but it doesn't have to be perfect. But it was quite literally the opposite. Perfection on the inside to a level that was really mind-boggling. I mean, did you climb into one of them? Did you get in there?
Yeah.
To any of them? I can't.
I got in. That was when I was telling you off. I got like
right,
under.
But you. Right.
I didn't jump in.
Going down.
No,
okay,
no.
That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Wasn't that brave?
It's fine. Here's, I think. Oh, is that Obi?
This is Obi.
Obi-Wan?
He's woke up from his nap and he's now like,
he's
hey.
a handsome man. Look at him.
Obi,
yeah.
Hi.
He loves you.
Say hi.
Sawyer's watching. He hears like the FedEx guy or someone. He's looking outside the window. He's on top of my couch.
But yeah, okay, I guess that's it. That was just our experience. I wanted to reminisce and go through it with you because I didn't get any footage, you did, and it's just so rare. I thought I wanted to tell people what it was like. People can follow you and your channel and your Patreon, and they're gonna you could see the video.
It's not up there yet, but it will be.
But it will be.
Because I want to give it to them first and then put it on YouTube later.
Thanks, Jimmy. And
pleasure, Johanna. Till next time. It was a pleasure traveling with you. You got to go to Peru. You got to go back to Egypt.